I used to think I knew her, really thought she was the one. We had the kind of relationship that everyone dreams about. She was beautiful, funny, smart, and always knew how to talk her way out of trouble. We met in college, hit it off immediately, and within a year I was planning a future with her. We talked about marriage, kids, buying a house. The whole 9 yards. I remember the way her eyes sparkled when she promised me eternity, right there on that tiny stage at our wedding reception. But that night, I learned I'd been blind. I was standing there in the middle of the crowd, my tuxedo feeling a little too tight when I saw her. I saw them. My brother leaning in, whispering something that made her laugh, her hand resting on his chest like they were already a team. My stomach dropped. I felt the world tilt. It was so sudden, so raw that I froze. My mind refused to process what I was seeing. I looked closer, no mistake. Her fingers were tangled in his hair, lips dangerously close. They didn't notice me at first. When they finally did, she straightened her face, flushing a deep red. My brother looked guilty but also proud, like he'd won some prize. "Hey man," my brother said, trying to act casual, but his voice cracked. "We were just talking, nothing more." My wife, still smiling that sickly sweet smile, turned to me. "Honey," she said, voice trembling, "I can explain." I felt every ounce of betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. Everything slowed. The music, the laughter, the clinking of glasses all faded into the background. My fingers clenched into fists, my breath caught in my throat. I felt the beads of sweat on my palms, slick and cold. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. Instead, I turned away, feeling like I was drowning in a sea of shock. I couldn't even look at her, not then. Not after what I'd seen. I just walked out, the crowd parting around me like I was some ghost. My head was pounding, my vision blurred with tears I refused to shed. I couldn't believe I was standing there, stunned, while she, my wife, was in the arms of my brother. That moment, I swear, I felt my entire world shatter. The image burned into my mind, her face, the way her lips curled around his name like she was tasting something forbidden. All I could think was, how had I missed all the signs? How had I been so stupid? Everything I thought I knew about her, the laughter, the promises, the love, was a lie. And the worst part, I had no idea if I ever really knew her at all. I remember walking outside, the cool air hitting my face, trying to breathe normally. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone. I needed proof. I had to see if there was more. I scrolled through her phone, heart pounding, and found messages. Flirty texts, secret exchanges, nothing explicit yet, but enough to tell me she'd been hiding something. I felt sick reading them. Betrayal wasn't a big enough word. I sat on the cold steps, staring at the glowing screen, the shock settling into a heavy weight in my chest. How could she do this? How could she promise forever and then just toss me aside? I thought about confronting her then, but I knew it would only make things worse. No resolution, just more pain. I had to plan my next move. I had to be smart about this. I knew I couldn't go home that night, not yet, not when everything was falling apart. I grabbed my coat, feeling numb, and walked away from what should have been our future. Instead, I was left with a sinking sense that I'd been played like a fool. The betrayal cut deep, but what haunted me the most was the silence, knowing she had lied to my face and I'd never see it coming, or so I thought. Now I had to decide how to handle her, how to handle this mess she'd made. The question kept echoing in my mind. Was this just a one-time mistake or something more? And if I found out the truth, what then? That's when I realized I'd need a plan, something cold, calculated, and final. But first, I needed to figure out just how deep this rabbit hole went. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been run over by a truck. My head was pounding and my stomach had that sour twist that wouldn't go away. I kept replaying that moment over and over, the look on her face, the cheating hands, the whispered promises. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smile and my stomach clenched. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was a full-blown invasion of everything I believed in. I knew I had to get to the bottom of it. No more second-guessing or pretending I didn't see what I saw. I needed proof, hard, undeniable evidence before making any moves. So I started digging. Her phone had been the obvious choice, but I didn't want to seem desperate or obvious. Instead, I played it cool. I watched her, listened to her, paid attention to everything she said, everything she did. Over the next few days, I noticed little things that didn't add up. She was extra secretive about her phone, always holding it tight even when she went to the bathroom. She'd get those quick, nervous glances around like she was hiding something, like she was always expecting me to catch her. I didn't confront her yet. I just watched and recorded everything. Small clues started piling up. Then I found a receipt in her purse from a hotel near the city, one she'd never mentioned. She'd been there late at night, just after our wedding, I realized. I kept digging. Her social media was strangely quiet, no posts, no messages, like she was trying to erase herself from the world. That's when I knew she was hiding something bigger. One evening I cornered her in the kitchen. Her eyes flicked to her phone and her hand trembled as she reached for it. I blocked her. "Who were you with last night?" I asked, voice low but steady. She froze, then gave me that fake, innocent smile. "Oh, just some friends," she said, shrugging. "Nothing to worry about." "Really?" I pushed. "Because I found a hotel receipt in your purse. Care to explain?" Her face lost some of its color. "It was a work thing, an emergency." "An emergency that kept you out until 2 a.m., I asked, feeling my jaw tight. "And you expect me to believe that?" She stared at me, defiance flickering in her eyes. "You're jumping to conclusions. You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I think I do," I said, voice rough. "And I know there's more. I've seen the messages." "You're cheating and I want the truth now." She looked like she was about to lie, but I saw the moment her facade cracked. I knew I'd gotten enough. That night I sat her down and showed her everything, screenshots of the texts, the hotel receipts, the secret messages. Her face twisted in anger, then in denial. She kept insisting it was all innocent, that she loved me, that she'd made a mistake. That's when I realized I had to do something more, something that would make her regret ever crossing that line. I couldn't just walk away. I needed a plan to make her feel the same betrayal I was drowning in. I decided then that I wouldn't be the one hurt and discarded. No way. If she wanted to play that game, I'd make sure she paid just as dearly. I sat down with a beer, my mind spinning. I started devising my revenge step by step. First, I'd gather every shred of evidence I could find. Then I'd confront her with it publicly if I had to. But the real plan, that was to turn this whole thing around, to make her realize what she'd lost, and that I was done being the fool. There was one thing I knew for sure. I'd never look at her the same way again. That betrayal had left a gaping hole, and I was determined to fill it with justice on my terms. She might think she was clever now, sneaking around behind my back, but I'd see to it that she paid every price. And when I finally struck back, she'd wish she'd never crossed me. I could feel the weight of that plan building inside me, like a storm ready to break. But first, I had to keep playing it cool. The real game was just beginning. Over the next couple of days, I kept a close eye on her. Every move she made, every word, every little secret glance. I was building a dossier, collecting bits and pieces that would make my revenge precise and undeniable. The more I watched, the more I saw how deeply she'd sunk into her lies. It was like peeling an onion, each layer revealing something worse than the last. One afternoon, I found myself in her closet, rummaging through her things, not out of anger but necessity. I was looking for more proof, anything I could use. That's when I noticed her jewelry box. Beneath the usual necklaces, rings, and earrings, I found a small folded note. My hands went cold. I unfolded it carefully and read the words. It was a letter, an apology, a confession, written in her own handwriting. She'd been cheating on me for months, she admitted, with a guy from her office. She promised it was over, but she never really ended it. I stood there, feeling my vision blur. My stomach clenched so tight I thought I might throw up. She'd been lying to my face all along, pretending everything was perfect while sneaking around behind my back. I didn't need her words to tell me what I already suspected. I was a fool, a blind fool. Later that night, I sat across from her in the living room. I'd been holding it in all day, and now I was done pretending. "We need to talk," I said, voice ice cold. Her eyes flicked nervously to the door, then back to me. "What's there to talk about?" "I know about the affair," I told her bluntly. "That note in your jewelry box, the texts I found, all of it. I trusted you and you betrayed me. I want to know how you plan to fix this." She looked like she was about to cry, but her voice was sharp. "It meant nothing, just a mistake." "Don't insult me," I snapped. "You thought I'd never find out. You've been lying for months, and now you want to pretend it's all just a mistake." She crossed her arms, stubborn. I never meant to hurt you, I swear. Save it, I cut her off. Because I've already made up my mind. I'm not putting up with this any longer. That's when I revealed my plan, how I intended to turn her betrayal against her. I told her I'd been recording her calls, saving her texts, and that I had enough to make her regret ever crossing me. I wanted her to understand that she'd pushed me to the edge and I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. I was going to make her feel the same pain she'd caused me, but in a way she'd never see coming. She looked stunned, her face pale. You wouldn't. Oh, I would, I said. And I will. You think you're clever, hiding behind your lies, but I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you did, including your family, your friends, everyone. The room grew quiet, heavy with tension. I watched her, feeling a strange mix of rage and relief. For the first time since that night, I felt like I was in control. I was finally taking back my power, and I was going to see her suffer, not physically. No, that wasn't my style, but emotionally. I wanted her to taste her own medicine. I told her I'd be leaving soon, that I was going to stay with a friend for a while. I grabbed my keys from the table, feeling a strange sense of calm mixed with fury. As I turned to walk out, she begged me, tears streaming down her face. Please don't do this, we can fix it. I looked back at her. No, we can't, not after what I found. You had your chance and you threw it away. Don't come looking for sympathy now. I knew I'd won that round. She was broken, just like I wanted her to be. But the real game was only starting. I had all the pieces I needed now, evidence, a plan, and the resolve to see it through. The next step was to execute it perfectly. Walking out that door, I felt lighter. For once, I was finally in the driver's seat, and I was damned if I was going to let her take that away from me again. She made her choice, and I was about to make sure she paid for it. The best revenge was never about screaming or breaking things. It was about making her realize she'd lost everything she thought she had, and I was ready to deliver that lesson. Over the next few days, I dedicated myself to executing my plan. Every detail had to be perfect. I couldn't afford to slip up. I started by deleting all her digital footprints, her secret texts, her emails, even the dating app she'd been using. I wanted her to think I was clueless, to lower her guard just long enough for the reveal. Meanwhile, I kept gathering more tangible evidence, records of her late-night hotel stays, her new phone numbers, anything I could use to make her pay. I also reached out to a private investigator I knew. It was a risk, but I needed confirmation that the affair was still ongoing, or if she'd already cut ties. When I got the report back, it confirmed what I suspected. She'd been seeing him regularly, even after promising she was done. That was more than enough for me. I didn't want to hear her excuses anymore. One evening, I sat her down again. This time I had a folder filled with everything, screenshots, receipts, voice recordings. I slid it across the table. Her eyes widened. What's this? All the proof I need, I said, voice cold and steady. Every secret, every lie. You can keep pretending it's nothing, but I know the truth now, and I'm done pretending I don't see what you've done. She looked like she was about to lash out, then instead her face crumpled. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone, and tried to delete some messages. I was faster. I grabbed her wrist, stopping her. Not anymore. We're past that. You think you're so clever, she snapped, tears in her eyes. You don't understand. I was lonely. I made a mistake. It meant nothing. Oh, it meant nothing. I shot back. That's rich. You think I'm stupid enough to believe that? You cheated on me with my brother, and you think a sorry excuse is enough. She looked desperate now, her voice trembling. Please don't do this. I love you. I was just lost. That's when I told her my plan. I'd been thinking about it for a while. I intended to expose her, not just to her family, but publicly. I'd post everything online, send it to her friends, her. I wanted her to feel the humiliation, the shame, the pain of losing everything. I told her that I'd be sending the evidence to her boss, her best friend, even her parents. I wanted her to understand that she'd crossed a line that couldn't be erased. Her face went pale. You wouldn't dare. Oh, I will, I said, voice sharp, because I want her to understand what she's throwing away. I want her to see that I'm not the fool she thought I was. Her hands clenched into fists. You're just angry. You'll regret this. Regret? No, I said, standing up. You're the one who's going to regret everything, starting with losing me. Goodbye. That night I stayed up late, meticulously drafting the posts. I knew exactly where to start exposing her affair, her lies, her betrayal. I wanted her to see that her actions had consequences. I posted the evidence on social media, sending links to her friends and family. I wanted her to feel the shock, the shame, the humiliation. The fallout was immediate. Her phone exploded with calls, messages, texts. Her mother called crying, her best friend blocked her. The emails flooded in from her colleagues, some calling her a liar, others just silent in shock. And her face. I saw her standing there in the living room, eyes wide, trembling, realizing that her secret was out. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and emptiness. I'd done what I set out to do. I'd exposed her, made her feel the same pain she'd given me. And now I watched her crumble, knowing I'd stopped being her pushover, her fool. For once, I felt like I was finally in control of my life again. The betrayal had broken me, but it also lit a fire. I wasn't going to let her destroy me without consequences. As I left her house that night, I knew this was just the beginning. The scars would stay, but I'd be stronger for it. I finally had proof, and now I'd let her drown in her own lies. I didn't need to hurt her physically. Her shame was punishment enough. And I'd made damn sure she'd never forget it. The aftermath hit her harder than I expected. I watched from my apartment window as she stumbled through her day, eyes red, face streaked with tears. Her phone kept ringing non-stop, calls from her parents, her boss, her friends, each one a reminder of how far she'd fallen. I wasn't there to gloat, but damn, it felt good to see her unravel. That's what she'd done to me after all. She shattered my trust, and now I was giving her a taste of her own medicine. A few days after the initial fallout, she finally came to the door, trembling. I didn't invite her in. I just looked at her coldly, arms crossed. "You wanted to talk," I said. "What's left to say?" She hesitated, voice trembling. "I'm sorry, I messed up. I know I hurt you, but I never meant for everything to blow up like this." I took a step closer, feeling the anger boiling inside. Sorry doesn't fix what you did. Sorry doesn't erase the years I spent believing in you and us. Sorry doesn't undo the fact that you slept with my brother and lied to my face every single day." She looked down, tears streaming again. "I was weak. I was stupid. I thought I could fix it, but I see now I can't. I just save it." I cut her off. "You had your chance. You lied to me, cheated, and then tried to hide it. I don't want to hear any more apologies. You made your choice." Her face twisted in pain. "Please, I love you. I want to fix this." "No," I said sharply. "You had your shot and you threw it away. I've already moved on. The only thing left now is to make things final." That's when I finally laid out my plan. I'd hired the investigator, gathered every piece of evidence I needed, and now I was ready to cut her loose. I told her she had one last chance. If she wanted to make amends, she could leave. Never come back. I handed her a folder with the evidence I'd collected. "This is all your mess. Take it and go. If I see you again, it'll be for the police." She stared at the folder, her hands trembling. "You can't do this. I love you." "I don't love a liar," I said coldly. "And I sure as hell don't love someone who cheats on her own family. You want to rebuild, fine, but it's not with me, not anymore." She finally nodded, defeated, and took the folder. As she turned to leave, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd finally done what I needed to do. The pain was still there, sure, but at least I was in control. I had the proof. I'd exposed her, and I was finally free of her grip. Later that day, I went to a lawyer. I started paperwork, filing for divorce. I wanted her out of my life, and I wanted a clean separation. No messy custody battles, just a quick, clean break. I didn't want her drama lingering in my world. I just wanted to get on with my life and forget her. As I signed the papers, I looked at her picture, her smile that was fake now, shattered by her own lies. I thought about everything I'd lost, but also everything I'd gained: clarity, closure, and the knowledge that I was finally free. I handed over the keys to our house, knowing I'd never go back. That place, once full of love, was now nothing but a reminder of what I'd lost. When I walked out of the lawyer's office, I felt lighter, like I'd shed a heavy coat I didn't need anymore. Life was going to be different, that's true, but it was mine again. All that betrayal. It taught me that I'd better trust my instincts from now on. Never again would I let someone crawl into my life and tear it apart without me fighting back. I know it's gonna sting for a while. The betrayal doesn't disappear overnight. But I also know that I'll come out the other side stronger. The pain will fade, and someday I'll look back and realize I finally took control. That's the real lesson. No matter how deep the wounds, you can always pick yourself up and start over. Just don't let the bastard or the betrayal define you. Standing outside the courthouse, I took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill my lungs. The papers were signed, the final domino had fallen. My life as I knew it was officially over with her. I handed over the keys to the house, my hand steady, voice calm but firm. "It's done," I whispered to myself. I watched her drive away, her face blank but her eyes shimmering with tears she couldn't quite hide. Part of me felt nothing. The other part, deep down, felt more alive than I had in years. The pain lingered, sure. It would for a while. But I knew I'd survived something that could have broken me for good. I turned her lies into my power, used her betrayal as fuel to rebuild. I refused to let her destroy the man I was becoming. That night, I slept better than I had in months, knowing I'd taken back control, that I'd made her suffer just enough to pay for what she'd done. In the weeks that followed, I focused on myself. I started going to the gym again, reconnecting with friends I'd pushed aside. I found new hobbies, things that made me feel alive, things that reminded me I was still capable of happiness even after all that. Every day I felt a little stronger, a little more in charge of my destiny. Looking back, I realized this: betrayal is a brutal teacher. It shatters illusions, forces you to confront your own strength or your weakness. But what matters most is how you respond. I could have crumbled, let her ruin me. But instead, I used that pain to fuel my change. I set boundaries I never knew I needed. I learned to trust myself again, to listen to that voice inside that says, "You deserve better." And I did. I do. I've come to see that sometimes the only way out of a nightmare is through it, by facing the truth, no matter how ugly. And when you do, you realize that your resilience is stronger than any betrayal. To anyone out there feeling shattered, remember this: betrayal cuts deep, but it's not the end. It's just an invitation to pick up the pieces and build something better. The pain might linger, but so does hope. And hope is what keeps us moving forward. So I handed over the keys, closed the chapter, and stepped into whatever was next. Trust me, it's scarier to stay where you are than to walk away. And even if the road ahead is uncertain, I know one thing for sure: I'll never let anyone take away my peace again. Not without a fight. Not without making damn sure they regret it. That's the lesson I want everyone to remember. No matter how deep the betrayal, your power lies in the choice to heal and move on. Because at the end of the day, the one who truly wins is the one who refuses to be broken.